G'day, AJ Mahar here. Another comment response, and this is a very common thing that a lot of people are going through when they've had a relationship, or you're in on and off again relationships with somebody with borderline personality disorder, or you're in that limbo place right now, because a lot of people take many trips around, trying it again, recycling the relationship, getting ghosted, getting discarded, whatever, it's on, it's off, it's on, it's off. All you hear from them, you hoover them back and forth. Limbo place, where people are out of the relationship almost as often as they're in it. But some people have recycled relationships with people with BPD like 10, 20, 30 plus times. And I've worked with a lot of clients who've been in those circumstances, very stuck, very trauma bonded, who've gone on to heal and recover and get out of all of the hellfire of it. So this person, oh yeah, please do hit subscribe, hit like if you like, and hit the notification bell. Let's grow the channel so that I'm not the only thing on the channel growing, right? Huh? I'm just trying to beat a troll to it today. Anyway, so comment was left on video I did. Want BPD Ex back. Fantasy of rescuing self through a borderline. And I'm wondering if enough people got what I was saying there, because I was expecting a whole lot of anger. So come on, don't let me down. Have a watch or listen to that in the podcast if you're hearing this in the podcast, because that was one of the most, I think, I'm not trying to overblow it, but seminal things as I head into talking a lot more about things a lot more people with codependency aren't going to want to hear unless you're ready to hear it, but it's going to be there for people to hear, because it's what you really need to hear if you want to have a chance to get yourself out of these relationships and trauma bonds. So this commenter, it's the classic struggle, and I wonder how many that might see this video. If you can relate, please leave a comment. Please share what's happening for you. Commenter says, part of me is holding on to hope that maybe she wants me back. This happens, by the way, only for people with codependency. Let me just put that straight up out there. And I'm not saying that in a judgmental way. And codependency is not a bad word, and it doesn't mean everything's your fault. None of that. And so the comment continues, yeah, holding on to hope that maybe she wants me back, that she regrets her last devaluing words. So if she reacts angrily to me if she reacts angrily to me reaching out to her, then it means it really is over, and I have nothing else to do than accept the relationship is really over. Can you relate to this? And I feel for you if you do. I have empathy and compassion for you, like the commenter, because what the commenter doesn't realize, and what so many of you out there don't realize, is that it's already over. How can I say that? Because you're like, wow, I don't know that, and I don't want it to be, and all that, codependent, false hope, and denial, that, it's going to turn into something different somehow. Because that's the fantasy bond part, right? It's like, it's a fantasy to think that everything you've already experienced from this person is somehow going to change and be different. Like, why? It takes years of therapy for them. And it takes, not years, but a significant amount of time and hard work and therapy for people with codependency to be able to heal, recover, and break that trauma bond. So the commenter continues. So they're saying something too, by the way. Like, I did a video on this the other day. I don't remember. Yeah, well, not long ago. I don't remember which one it was. But it was like, it might have been the one that the commenter commented on. Because, I was talking about, I've had clients say to me that, they don't know what to do. And then there's that impulsivity in a codependent repetition compulsion that you might not be consciously aware of yet. And it's like, I just have to get closure, which is you're fooling yourself in a fantasy, because it's not closure you want when you got to contact. You get the impulses are driving you crazy. You gotta contact the ex again. Gotta. Because maybe if they send me, this is what this commenter is saying, maybe if they send me another really angry, devaluing response, then okay, I'll have to accept it's over. Only that's not what you're really doing, commenter, or other people that can relate. It can be what you 100% believe you're doing. But what's going on in a more in-depth area in your psyche, in your psychology, likely unconsciously for you, is this is you want a do-over. This is you want it to still work. And the commenters is holding out hope for that. And other people don't say it quite like that. That's what it's always about. When you're just jonesing and ruminating and so impulsive about I gotta get closure, or if they tell me off one more time, I'll accept it then. No, you won't. No, you won't. It doesn't change anything. When you're stuck in a trauma bond, seeking intermittent reinforcement, and you don't know why, other than that you want that to work out, but you don't have the understanding that I help clients to find when I work with them in sessions of why is this so not impulsive, so compelling to you that you can't stop, because it's codependent repetition compulsions in your part of the dynamic of the trauma bond. And it's not all about the person with BPD. So, and if they react angrily again, first of all, when you reach out to a borderline ex, depending what's going on and depending who they are, because not all people with BPD are the same, they may not respond to you at all ever again. So you're going to just be increasing your pain and more false hope and building up your fantasy, which is going to cost you so much in rumination, in time lost, in agony, and in pain. And some people don't even want to go on living anymore. It hurts so bad and they can't stand it anymore. So when you want to go back, you want recontact to that ex because it's closure, or because well, if they are angry and devalue me again, okay, well then I'll have to accept it. It's not what happens for people. Most people will go back, maybe get devalued again if you get a response, and you'll start the whole cycle over again, and you'll be hurting worse each and every time. And then you'll want to reach out again, and they'll do it again, and you'll be like, but I'm going to leave and you won't be able to, because you're trapped and stuck in a trauma bond, and you need help and therapy to be able to break that, to change that, and to even understand what's happening for you. It's really complicated. It's not just on the level of I need to accept the relationship is over with the borderline. No, it goes way deeper inside of you with codependency. Now, I'm not just saying that to the commenter, to anybody that relates. And so the commenter said, yeah, if she reacts negatively, devaluing, then there'll be nothing else the commenter can do. Have you been around this a few times yourself? Are you going through this now? Building up that false hope, living in the fantasy, you're going to contact them again. Or maybe they reach out to you even, and they hoover you. But the bottom line is, you think that somehow, even if they hoover you, or if you reach out to them again, if they give you the angry response, it'll suddenly be okay for you to accept. No, it won't, because it isn't right now. What do you think the difference is? And if by chance your false hope leads to, oh, the borderline says, let's try again. These relationship cycles don't last long. All the going to the split to devaluation, to ghost, etc., to discard again, will speed up for the person with BPD, and you will just be putting your precious self, everybody with codependency, into the meat grinder of the borderline again to get all chewed up, spit out again. And you'll be shocked and devastated again, because you're operating on something that is being driven by something deep in your unconscious. It's not only what's going on with the borderline. And so then the commenter continues, yeah, so if this happens and they get an angry, devaluing, response, they'll really have to move on. They'll have to accept it's over, and they'll be forced to move on. Some people have been around, discarded, ghosted by a borderline 10, 15, 20, 30, 40. I'm not exaggerating. Many, 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 many times. And in the cycle of seeking the intermittent reinforcement and all that's going on unconsciously that people with codependency are seeking as well, in wanting to get the borderline back or have that closure conversation that really slides into we're having a do-over, there's nothing about any of that that is going to mean it's really over for you. Because you should know already, or if you were prepared, if you could help yourself out of this, you would know already that it's already over. And even if you get 10 more recycles that are just going to hurt you and wound you more, you go back again and recycle a relationship doesn't mean that it is essentially still in the over position. Even if you get a little bit of intermittent reinforcement back, you're only, in a way, addicting yourself more and more every time you do it. But people with BPD, when they have these patterns, nothing's going to work out. They're going to just keep being angry and punishing you and ghosting you or whatever the case in cycles. And you're going to think every time, well, okay, if it happens once more, then I'm going to have to accept it. They're going to force me. I want to say to you people, everybody up there with codependency, I want to say really gently, nobody can force you to change a freaking thing about how you are trauma bonded and why you are repeating these cycles. Person with BPD denying you over and over is not going to force you to be able to break a trauma bond. It just can't happen that way. Just like you can't rescue and fix and save and change the borderline. So you need to go to therapy. I'm not here to work with you if I resonate with you. Commenter continues. So if that first scenario happened and they were forced to move on, as they say, which doesn't work that way. Otherwise, I still have this hope she might apologize for her last hateful words, which maybe she wrote in the heat of the moment. Well, to that I just want to say, if you're being honest with yourself, commenter, and anyone that relates to this, is if you're watching this video or listening to this podcast or whatever it is, wherever you find it. So are you otherwise, you still have hope, you see? So even if the angry, kind of punishing again response was to be gotten, person is saying otherwise, but words. I still have this hope she might apologize for her last hateful words. What would that apology even mean, commenter? Or anyone that relates to this? Because when people with BPD apologize, if they're actually apologizing, they rarely, if ever, know to the fullest extent of self-awareness. They're often not taking personal responsibility with the kind of ways that they apologize. They might feel bad about something and they might go, I'm sorry this or that happened or whatever. But then they're going to go on and do and repeat the same behavior. Same words, same thing, same reactions in their repetition compulsion cycles that only therapy can help them with and only years of therapy can help them with. So this person is holding out hope, are you, that the person with BPD just might, for some reason, suddenly apologize for their last hateful words or whatever it was the case, as the commenter says here, which maybe she wrote in the heat of the moment. Don't you know that almost every moment is heated for borderline? Almost every moment for an untreated borderline trying to relate to other you, that means you, they can't connect. They don't attach. I'm talking about untreated. They do not know how to love. They can't receive your love. Why do I keep saying that? Because they don't know who they are and they don't have a container of self to hold your love. They don't know how to reciprocate love. They punish love. They punish giving. And codependent love isn't altruistic, all super healthy love either. So I really feel for this commenter and all of you out there that I'm sure can relate to him. Because I still have this hope she might apologize for her last hateful words, which maybe she wrote in the heat of the moment. Well, if they come a hoovering, they will apologize. But it's not a real apology. They'll be telling you what you want to hear because they need something from you. So you see what a slippery slope this is? I'm still hoping that she'll apologize. And maybe you've been through this, or he, right? Maybe you've been through this with your borderline person with BPD in your life, or who was, on and off. Maybe you've been through this 10 or 15 times already. Maybe you've been through it twice, 3 times, 4 times. And they come up with some kind of like seeming apology, or even if they come up with a really sincere, almost felt apology, but it might not still be taking enough personal responsibility. But when they come back, Hoover, they're going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm sorry. I understand now. I know, like, I can be difficult. Be all these vague things, right? I know that I can be difficult, and I know that maybe there was something about what happened, and they'll say something, but they don't really get it. So the point I'm driving to now is, when you have this false hope that they will apologize, why does the apology matter at all? You're so trauma bonded, you can't break free. So you have all this codependent false hope and denial going on. Well, maybe if they just apologize, it'll be okay. For how long? Until they do the same thing over again or similar things. You go around and around and around. This idea that a borderline, untreated person with BPD, or even patterns of an undiagnosed, that these people understand what you really need and want. No, they don't. So to come a hoovering, they're just going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm sorry because whatever, and I won't do that again, and I'll try harder. If it's that kind of an apology, right? It doesn't mean anything. They might mean it, but they can't do it. They can't live up to it. They're going to repeat the behaviors and the words again and again and again. And they're going to be like, well, I have hope they're going to apologize. And then they apologize. And what? How does that make anything okay? It doesn't. It just gets you back into that moment of, the hit of the intermittent reinforcement. And it feels so good. And it will feel good. It might last a minute, 24 hours, a week, a day, maybe 4 months, maybe 6 months. But you're still going to be going through all the same stuff you were going through before. Relationship isn't going to be better. You're going to be trying to help and overgive and whatever. And you're going to get punished for it. And all this on and off. All the crazy making roller coaster stuff goes on. These cycles just go round and round and round and round, but with no repair stage. If you think you got a repair stage, if you think the apology is a repair stage, you are kidding yourself. You are multiplying your own pain. I'm just passionate because I care so much about people who are in this nightmare, right? And I mean, I've been working with clients for 35 years in this nightmare, and I really feel for all of you out there, and especially I feel for the people that I get to know that I'm working with who become my clients. It's like people are just hurting so bad, but you kind of can't deal with your emotions. You kind of just got to ruminate and focus on the borderline and the false hope of your codependency and the fantasy bond, because you, right now, check this out. Think about it, okay? You don't know how to deal with your own pain. So all you know is to have this false hope, repeat the cycle, and go back again with the fantasy bonded idea that it'll work this next time. Ladies and gentlemen, no, it won't. It never does. It doesn't matter how many times you recycle. And so this person is saying, maybe she'll apologize. They still have hope. And that maybe the hateful words she wrote were in the heat of the moment. But don't you realize that for people with borderline personality disorder, every time they're triggered, and their triggers are not your fault, they're internal inside of them. Every time they're triggered, every time you look at your watch and they have fear of abandonment and they're like, well, you looked at your watch again, you do what? Are you bored? You don't even like me. You don't love me. You're good. You're just like, because I feel abandonment. Like, nothing changes in relationship recycling for people with codependency that need to get into healing and recovery for that and break the trauma bond. And nothing's going to change for the person with the patterns of or diagnosis of borderline personality disorder who doesn't want to get any help, isn't getting any help, is in their own denial. And if you think that a borderline just said some hateful words to you in the heat of the moment, They're going to be experiencing that, quote, heat of the moment millions of times. And are you going to sit there each and every time hoping for an apology so it can be what? Okay again? It's never going to be okay. Because you have codependency and you have issues you're not aware of, and you're repeating things that go back to your childhood, adverse experience, woundedness, or trauma. And it's the fantasy bond aspect of the trauma bond. Well, people really do believe it's going to work next time. It's going to work this time. I just need this person to get in touch with me. I just need one answer. We just need to try one more time. Like I did a video recently about where somebody, the person with BPD hoovered them for what they needed in the moment because they were depressed. And then the person takes them back, is all excited about, we'll go to couples counseling together. We'll make this work. 24 hours later, that borderline was a male, by the way, ghosted that person like that. Because guess what? They probably just weren't as depressed. And maybe the person that they were already with, or the favorite person, or somebody else in their life now, maybe they had a falling out, and oh, gee, that's okay. So I don't need you anymore. So a lot of times you're going to get a hoover from a borderline. You're going to think you're back together for 24 hours or a few days, and they're going to ghost you again because they're using you. And then I want to say this one more time. I'm going to be saying this a lot more in different ways and going more in depth into this, probably more on my podcast and the channel. And how many podcasts come to the channel? I don't know what I'm doing. So you should check out survivingbpdrelationshipbreakup.com, where you can get videos, the video feed from my channel, or the video feed from the podcast. Not all videos are on the podcast. Not all podcasts are on the channel. So check out survivingbpdrelationshipbreakup.com. It's free and everything. You can just go over there and see stuff. And maybe subscribe to both the channel, like click through and subscribe to the channel, or go and follow the podcast. Yeah, on whatever podcast you could follow from that. No, on that website, survivingbpdrelationshipbreakup.com. There's Spotify, Apple, whatever. You can click those buttons and follow, or I think you can follow, become for free, like a follower, a member of that website. I have no idea because I still have more work to do on it, and I don't know. So people are leaving comments over there too. So if you're a podcast listener, you might want to check out survivingbpdrelationshipbreakup.com so you can actually leave me a comment or get in touch with me. I've had people asking how they can find sessions with me, which is really stated in every podcast and is really under each video, but I'm always happy to repeat it if somebody wants to connect with me. So back to this conundrum dilemma. What was I going to say? Well, the codependent denial of if they'd only apologize. Okay, it'll work. It'll be okay. Do you know, some people with codependency, I've worked with a lot of clients, and some of them are still in this space right now. And they say, well, what do they say now? It just flew out of my head. Basically, they believe, I know what they say. They often will say, clients will say something like this. I'm not repeating anybody verbatim or not intentionally at all. They'll say, well, if they get in touch with me, I need another chance because I didn't know what BPD was. And now I know what BPD is, and I know so much more about it. And some clients will say to me, and I've learned so much more from you, like not only my content, but like when I'm talking to a client one-on-one about their person and all the details there, it can be a lot more helpful specifically to each person I work with. But they'll say, well, now I understand BPD so much better. I can do better. I can give more. Well, maybe when the borderline does this or says that, I won't do this or the other that I did. And that doesn't work. You're just going to set yourself up to try to give more, to try to overgive. You're just going to be abandoning yourself incredibly much more. And believe me, it is more and more wounding and hurtful to people, devastating over time, as if you might not be devastatingly hurt enough right now and feel like you don't know yourself anymore. So a lot of times people think, well, I know BPD better. I understand it now. Now I can do better. And not going to change one thing about how impossible it is to relate to that person with BPD, because no matter what you're going to do, and no matter what you're going to do better, it's never going to be good enough for them. And I'm just trying to remember the other thing that I was going to say on that too, is in the fantasy of it's going to work out next time, that's, oh yes, the message I was going to give here again, gently. That's because as codependents, when you're still involved in this, the trauma bond and the fantasy of, it'll work next time, I can do better, whatever variation of that you might be having hope about in codependent denial and the fantasy bond, what you need to know is what's driving you. You're trying to escape your own pain. It's really hard because people in a lot of pain don't know how to cope with it. You might be trying to outthink yourself with it and be in all the logic about it, but so many people with codependency aren't feeling their own pain. You might be in some kind of pain, but you're not really. Some people do cry. Some people, like a lot of guys just go and take it out in the gym, or maybe some women do now too. And that's good, but you're not in your emotional landscape. You're not going to be able to get to the healing and the depth that you need to know about what's going on for you as a codependent. So what am I saying specifically here? When you just believe if they just apologize. Maybe they just said those words in the heat of the moment, but all these moments when borderlines devalue are heated moments for them, and they don't produce change or more self-awareness. What people with codependency need to know more about is, like the title of the video I read that the commenter commented on, it's not all about the borderline for you, even though you believe it is. There's something in your unconscious. You have these repetition compulsions. You are reenacting something that maybe happened with a person with BPD, but also happened somewhere in your childhood. It doesn't have to be the exact same thing. So people with codependency, still trauma bonded, in the fantasy bond aspect of that, what do you need to know that you don't want to hear and that could be very painful or just make people really get angry with me? You need something from the borderline that the borderline can't give you. So you are in a different way doing essentially something very similar to what the borderline is doing. Not in the same way, but you are trying to rescue and fix something in yourself from your past through the borderline in a different way, as people with BPD are trying to get something to help them that might change something they think that they didn't get from a parent. They want to get that from you. So they're looking to you for identity. They're looking to you for, make them happy. They're looking to you to take their pain away. But you can't, and it's never good enough. But people with codependency, in varying different degrees, you're doing a very similar thing in what you want, in the change and the fixing and the rescuing of the borderline. And essentially, it goes way deeper than this, but you at very least want them to be the person that you thought they were in the honeymoon phase, in the idealization stage. And I say this because it's true. And I say this because it speaks to, and I want to speak to it in a much more clear way, the overlap between codependency and BPD and codependency and dependent personality, which is why codependency didn't get accepted in DSM-3 as a psychiatrist proposed it as codependent personality disorder, because the DSM committee said codependency overlaps too much with borderline personality disorder and dependent personality disorder from cluster C. Now, don't hear that as me saying that means you're a borderline, because no, you're not. If you have codependency only, and you're not a borderline. You might have a trait or two. You might have some dependent personality things, and I'm going to have something coming on that soon too. But here's the thing you really need to hear. Think about it. Don't shove it away first if you have to. Get mad, click off, but maybe come back and think about it. Maybe listen again. because I know what I'm talking about. And I don't say this to in any way say that this makes any of you with codependency in the trauma bond, in the fantasy bond, a borderline. No. But you have something that overlaps and has similarity and is not exactly the same as what, and it's not as deep and it's not as long a process. So, but I'm not comparing wounds, right? But people with codependency are doing all the overgiving and all of the and all of the need to reconnect and all of that. You're jonesing for that intermittent reinforcement. You got to get back there because you don't know who you are anymore. And codependency fundamentally is a dysfunctional relationship to and with self anyway. So people with codependency have both self issues, not to the degree of borderlines. What I'm talking about here is, whoops, I can put that phone down now. What I'm talking about here is like, you know, BPD's over here, codependency's over here, but there's some overarching, overlapping, and it doesn't mean that the person with codependency is a borderline. But it goes that deep. And it's not just about the person with BPD. And so I think I've made that point, but I think it's a really hard thing for people with codependency to want to hear. So as I've said what I've said about that, I just want you to know it's not me saying that you have borderline personality disorder, because you have the repetition compulsions of codependency and that you are seeking to rescue and fix and change this borderline because you need something down deep in your unconscious. You have something you need to heal. And that drives you harder back to the borderline than anything about the great sex, anything about the borderline and who you thought they were, even though there's some substantial things in that arena, right? Like people say and mean that, well, I thought this was the woman or the man of my dreams. I thought this is who I was with. Well, I had kids. It's a mess now. But I thought this was a person I was going to have a family with and be with for the rest of my life. So there's that. And it's devastating. And it's unbelievably painful. But again, I just want to say, the bigger driver behind it all for you as a codependent, it's what you need to know more about. It's what you need to know about what happened in your childhood. It's you need to understand, how did you get there? And why are you there now? And how come you can't break free? And it's not all about the relationship with the borderline. So people with codependency have on this side of the equation what, borderlines have on this side of the equation, but it's not exactly the same. Because people with BPD have arrested emotional development. It's a very primal woundedness. And codependency, why is codependency as a trauma response and not BPD? Because it's not as primal a woundedness. And therein lies the big difference. But there are overlaps otherwise. I hope you can hear that without feeling like I'm calling you a borderline. So, and I'm out here to work with you if I resonate with you, because I have a lot of experience and knowledge in this area, and I have even more to go deeper. And it might be that I'm going to be putting up, a few ebooks and some audios and things that you might have to purchase, but they're going to be in depth and they're going to be worth your time. But I would also say, if you're afraid of the truth and what will help you to get into a healing recovery journey, then when I do have these things up and I mention them, don't purchase them. Don't purchase them if you're not serious about wanting to get out of the agony that you're in. Even if you don't know how the hell you're going to do that or how you could ever do that. So just know this overlap is real, but because people with BPD have codependency, severe codependency. So some people have severe codependency, but you don't have BPD. But there's still this overlapping stuff. And yes, I've gone back and I've done this prior, but now I'm convinced I need to go more forward, more deeper into this, as I do with my clients. Because, and in different ways, I don't always, I'm just communicating out here generally to people. But I hope that you can hear what I said and really take it seriously, because, if you resonate with me, I'm out here to work with you. And if not, and you choose someone else to work with, just find someone to work with who can seriously really help you, because there's something else going on and it's not all about the borderline. And this, over time, is literally ripping people to shreds with codependency. People are wanting to unalive themselves. People are not finding any purpose in life. People are not able to break the trauma bond. So even I have clients, that have been no contact. Maybe the person BPD just, and there's no way. But maybe some of them made their own choice. Like, this is driving me crazy. I don't know what to do, but I'm not going to talk to them again. And the thing is some people are 2 years, 4 years, 5+ years, 10 years, a lot of years away from that relationship but they haven't moved on and they haven't broken the trauma bond. And so I can also answer another question I got recently. I think it was on the channel. I'm not sure. Could have been a client, but somebody asked me, I don't remember where, but somebody asked me, so if you go no contact, do you heal and does that break the trauma bond? No, it's one step. But people with codependency, you need to start taking yourselves much more seriously. You need to realize your lack of self-respect, your lack of self-trust, your lack of knowing yourself, that you have a false self at work, that you have a wounded inner child that's doing all kinds of things with the relationship with the borderline, what you think is about the borderline, doing all kinds of things unconsciously that are driving you to repeat things that you just think it's because of the borderline and because it's going to work out and you have all this hope. It's a hard thing to say generally. It's an easier thing to kind of like talk about with a client because I know who I'm talking to and what's exactly happening for them. But I want to say to people just generally here, the fantasy bond is so powerful. Codependent denial meeting with the fantasy bond of the trauma bond. That false hope, you're not going to be able to stop the codependent denial and stop that false hope and the fantasy bond until you get into therapy and really work to break the trauma bond, which also deals with the fantasy bond and the betrayal bondedness of all of this. Because every time a person wants to go back to the borderline, like this commenter, every time you just like, I still have hope that they're going to apologize. Who gives a flying fig if they apologize? Because they're just going to do it again and again and again and again. What are you doing to yourself? You don't realize that there's something about you, this is happening inside of you as a codependent, that you can't break this trauma bond, that you have all this false hope. And for the majority of you, like really seriously, you're with untreated borderlines, you're with people that aren't even diagnosed with BPD, you are with people that are at ground zero and they're not going to change. And if they ever do get into therapy, etc., it's going to take years. And what about you, your healing, your therapy? How well do you know yourself anymore at all? Did you know yourself much prior? You might know what you like. You might know, like you have friends, your family. You might really know what you like to do for hobbies. You might love your career. You might be an entrepreneur. I have clients that are famous, rich, wealthy, driven, professional careers that you could name, jobs, other things, passionate, clients from all walks of life. And it doesn't matter. The wealthier, richer, and some that would be known to people, but I'm never going to name a name, they have everything. If you knew their names, you would say, but they have everything. Get out of here. Nope. People who are wealthy, famous, powerful, different aspects, careers of life, etc., I want to be really vague, they get into relationships with borderlines too. And it destroys a lot of their world. And maybe they can still function. I have so many clients that tell me no matter what the career, etc., that, and a lot of our entrepreneurs, etc., but they'll be like, but I can't concentrate on work and this and that. And like, and I'm losing this much money and this is happening. You really need to get help and you really need to look at what's going on for you and unpack that. And yes, and deal with what's happened with the borderline. But the codependent denial meets the false hope of the fantasy bond of the trauma bond. It's going to work out next time. I can't live without this person, but you can't live with them either. Please understand from what I'm saying, I'm coming at codependency in a kind of rather unique way. I mean, there's a few people out there, I'm sure they're doing great work. There's a lot that aren't. But I'm not saying, hey, I know it all and nobody else. No, but I have a beat on something that I truly understand from the inside out. And what I know about that I haven't heard anybody else talk about, but I don't listen to everybody out there, so I don't have no idea. But the bottom line is that I'm following the work of the psychiatrist who proposed to DSM-3 that codependency be a diagnosis of codependent personality disorder. That's not me saying I think it should be that. I don't know that that would be really helpful at all, except we would have nailed this concept down, this construct of codependency. Because what I want you to take away from this video also, if you didn't take away other things, or if you if you shut it off, you're not listening now, but what I want you to take away from this video or podcast is that codependency isn't this hairy-fairy thing out there, isn't just like nothing thing. A lot of people speak about it in terms and misinformation that aren't helpful. And many people, there's other people that get it, right? Do they get this one core part that I don't know, but maybe they deal with that in a different way, in a different lens, in a different construct. But there's so many people out there right now. A lot of them are psychiatrists on YouTube. They have channels now. Or they have they're psychologists as well, and they're on their YouTube channels and whatever. But, they love to say things like, oh, codependency doesn't mean anything, and whatever they would put it in some other context. Codependency means everything when you have it. Codependency means everything when you have it and you don't understand it. Codependency means everything when you're in agony. You're trauma bonded to the borderline. You have false hope, the denial of codependency, and the fantasy bond. Codependency is formidable, very real, and not the, what can I say? Not the airy-fairy thing that some people talk about it so inaccurately and uninformed, that because it's been a thing. Codependency has been a thing that's bopped around for 40, 50, 60 years now. And the way it was defined in the beginning for a long time, some people still think it's that. No. And somebody else, a professional, proposed, this stuff makes my blood boil. Quite a while ago, a psychologist, I think from Ireland or something, and the name escapes me right now, or I'd say it because they're disgusting. They so don't like the construct of codependency, as if this should be a pick and choose thing on the part of therapists. I don't believe in that. When you see something and you know what it is, like I do, when you've worked with clients and you've lived it yourself, it's time to really put it. This is the best construct. I want you to know that, codependency, for what you're going through, because you don't have BPD or NPD. And you might have some dependent personality traits or whatever, but you may not have that either. So codependency is something you need to know more about. And I'm out here to work with you if I resonate with you, because there is a professional out there who's written a book, Irish psychologist, I believe it's a woman. And you know what they throw around in their gobbledygook? I would just say straight up bullshit, pardon my language. They believe that if you're with a narcissist, well, there's no such thing as codependency, they say. That's ridiculous, they say. Because what? They think they're smarter than the rest of us, or they just want to take some unique path to making money and getting attention. That's what a lot of these professionals are doing, ladies and gentlemen. So, this therapist throws around the word, I don't think they have a YouTube channel. I don't know. If they do, I don't know. But the thing is, they throw around the word that if you're with a narcissist, you're a co-flipping narcissist. What? That's disgusting. And so I, as a child of two narcissists with their comorbidities, what does that mean? Because I was the child. I'm long since not a child. And they're both dead now, so I don't even have to say adult child anymore. It's fantastic territory, this, and I went no contact. And so you can really overcome all this junk. But here's my point. When I was a kid, or even the adult child of them, before I went no contact and worked out my stuff, was I a co-narcissist because I had a flippin' narcissistic parent? No, that is absurd. So we see this type of thing coming from people who just want to say, well, they don't understand codependency, or they just want professionals just bat stuff away all the time because it suits their fancy, because they think they're going to go make their own lingo. And some of them do. They make their own lingo and they write a book, and then they're so bloody full of themselves and their importance, they couldn't possibly have anything incorrect when they have a boatload incorrect. I'm just saying, What is it lately I've seen? Dr. Peter Salerno. I'm coming for him. What do I mean by that? Well, no, I'm not coming. But I mean, I've seen him out there. He thinks borderline's a narcissist. It's 100% genetic. They're born that way. No, we know that psychopaths are born that way. It's not true of borderline's and narcissists. Some genetic factors potentially doesn't matter. People with BPD can still recover. But here's the thing. He just says, and there's probably some stupid study that wasn't replicated, doesn't mean anything. Somebody said something way in the past, he can glom on to half of it and then claim. So he says borderline, I'm not going to deal with NPD right now. So he says borderline personality disorder, people that characterological problem, so does Dr. Simon, characterological problem. Well, that throws it back into the 1950s. And it's useless and not helpful. And then Salerno says, yeah, it's all this genetic stuff and blah, 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 whatever. Well, do you think he really believes that? Do you think that he really knows that he knows that? Because he can't know that 100% because it hasn't been proven. Or is he just trying to, like, get his book more attention? Get his channel, because his channel's probably huge. I haven't looked lately. Get his channel more subscribed. Get bigger, make more money. Like, be more powerful. Be more influential. Isn't that what it's all about out here? Well, I'm just a fat old broad, down to earth. Here it is, whatever. If you have a fat phobia, you probably can't work with me. If you think that fat people are stupid, well, you won't want to work with me. If you think whatever. Point is that I'm just coming from a real authentic place. So my channel has 45,000 subscribers. It's great. Hopefully I'll get more. Hopefully people can find me in the algorithm. But I'll probably never hit 100,000, let alone these people that hit 500,000 and a million. Ladies and gentlemen, they cut corners all the time with their information. I'm not saying they don't have good information, some of them, right? Of course they do. But they'll cut a corner in a heartbeat for the marketing wizardry of what they've learned and what they do and what they have the looks to do in a narcissistic culture. It all befuddles me. It all is, I don't want to. I don't care. Even if somehow, I mean, I'm older, and I'm obviously, I have this medical weight thing. It is medical. I don't eat myself like this. But anyway, bottom line is I just, and I'm just going to be real because I believe in that. So I'm never going to cut a corner. I'm never going to miss a delineation to say something specific because I'm not here to people please like they are. And they grab all these things and they talk about all this stuff that they know that some of us are going to know that they don't know what they're talking about the way they claim to be. Just like the woman psychologist throws around, if you're with a narcissist, you're a co-narcissist. To that, I would just be like, that finger, because it's, people want to make themselves more important than the content, more important than the message. I want to just tell you right now, I'm not one of those people. And I'm not here to be an influencer, whatever the F that crap is about. I'm just here to produce content. And I'm just here to help people. And I'm here to work with people that resonate with me. And yeah, it really is about that humble and living in a narcissistic world, being older, as I've always, I'm just probably one of the oldest YouTubers in this genre area, niche area. And then, hey, I'm sometimes not so big, but I'm never small. And then sometimes I'm like, and whatever. And I'm not trying to draw, I mean, you can see it, right? And the trolls will be on it. Don't worry about it. But the point is, it's all about just authenticity. And I don't think I even have to say that because I have clients who come and want to work with me. They resonate with me and they tell me that all the time, that that's part of why they want to work with me. But the bottom line is, I don't think I'm some hero or extra courageous person. I'm just somebody who's like, I'm not playing the game on social media. That's what I want you to know. I'm not like the other YouTubers. I'm not playing the game. I'm not looking for the advantage. I'm not an influencer. I don't need 200, 500,000, 700,000 subscribers, a million. I don't need to write a seminal book that says blah, that isn't even accurate, but can push it, get interviewed all over the internet and feel real damn important at the end of the day. None of that shit matters to me at all. So the message I've given to you here today will be really difficult for many people to hear. But I just hope that you'll consider hearing what I said, because all your false hope, all your codependent denial, the trauma bond, the fantasy aspect of the trauma bond, you're all going in the most painful circles and you're losing yourself more and more every day. You might not know who you are anymore. Your life might not even look the way it used to be. And You might be just hanging in to try to stay here. And you're worth so much more than this. And yeah, I just want to say one other thing too, I don't expect people that are younger and etc. to feel the way that I feel necessarily. But I'm going to have something coming soon and it's not about me or my size, but it's something to do with that only in the matter of like you need to be you need to be comfortable in your own skin. And that's obviously not just a physical statement, but I just want you to know, and this isn't all comfortable, but I'm comfortable in my skin no matter how much of it there is and etc. because I love me. I know me. I fought hard to find out who the hell I was. And so I just say this with passion because it doesn't matter if you're my age or younger, if you're fat, if you're thin, if you're great looking, if you're in good shape. There's too much emphasis being put by younger generations on looks first, looks always. What is it they say in all this dating stuff about attraction? And I mean, and most people that are younger would definitely say, I mean, I'm old and I'm just out here to work with people. It's not about attraction, it's about information, obviously, right? But I get that. But the thing is, there are people out there. I mean, I have a relationship with somebody that people can value big people, heavy people, fat people, shorter people, taller people, you know. And the thing is, I don't know if that's the same in younger generations. And I'm not saying anybody should compromise who you're attracted to, of course not. But the bottom line is maybe you also need to think about how much are you into all that people talk about and people want attraction? Yeah, and the younger you are, of course. But the thing is, you also, at any age really, but you also need to think about what's inside the person. Because you can be with the most gorgeous borderline woman or most handsome borderline man, or you've been with them and you want to be with them again. But what do they have going on inside of them? So it's not an either or because people that are really fortunate in life, I guess, it's a both and. And for me, like right now, this point in my life and the medical thing that continues to just do its thing, and we keep working on it. The bottom line is, that yeah, somebody loves me too. And I love me too. And I have a lot of friends. And so that's the thing that everybody in healing and recovering from these relationships and breaking the trauma bond and healing your codependency is no matter if you're the most gorgeous man or woman on earth right now, and you might be in the prime of your life, but what is all that worth right now when you don't have you? When you don't have your self-respect, you don't have your self-trust, you don't have your self-worth and your self-esteem. Because you got to be comfortable in your own skin, which isn't literally a physical statement, but I just, you know, obviously alluded to that because probably where people's minds are going to go. But the thing is, be comfortable with who you are. And a big part of codependency in the work and the process that it is as I work with clients, it's learning how to love yourself in a way that you've never learned how to love yourself yet. And so that self-love, it's not narcissistic, by the way, is what you want to be aiming for too. And sorry I've gone on and made this probably like way too long, but I did just want to say, so the goal is getting really real with yourself. And that's the one thing that I learned a long time ago in my life because I didn't know who I was. And I had to go through 15 years worth of therapy to find that out. And then there was the codependency after I recovered from BPD, which is 40 years ago now. Then there was the codependency to deal with. So what do you think that means? I just want you to take this in for a second. What do you think it means that I recovered from borderline personality disorder, but I was still a severe codependent? And no, I'm not saying that means that what you're going through is worse than what a person with BPD goes through. No, no, no. Because I only had like 4 strong core traits. I don't think I tipped into full blown, whatever. But I'm just saying, let that sink in for a minute. Because just what does it mean for you? I healed and recovered from 4 core traits, like really the essence of BPD, in 15 years worth of therapy 40 years ago. But at that point in my life, I still had severe codependency. Doesn't that suggest to you how formidable codependency in its own right is? You can't, this is not a do-it-yourself proposition, ladies and gentlemen. So many people think they can. Oh, I'll like somehow just like go no contact and I'll be fine and I'll move on to the next person. And no, very rarely is that ever something that happens for people that it works, because usually the next person is some other, borderline or narcissist or something in cluster B, or just somebody who's really immature, not healthy. So anyway, codependency is real. It is deep. It is formidable. It is, in my opinion, something I understand in what I would call a clinical construct. And no, that isn't mapped out there anywhere. And no, I'm not trying to say you have a personality disorder. But it's really real. It's really formidable. And you really need to pay attention to it. And so please share your experiences on this video if you can. If you can relate to, as I'm sure many, many people can. Your codependency's got you by the tail. You want the ex back. You are relationship recycling. You are in limbo. And of course, all that I've already said in this video. I hope it's helpful. And it's also my kind of passionate plea. I don't want to get into codependency myself, but I really, really want to set the heat under you, so to speak, to hear what I've said, to consider it. And like I said, you'll work with whoever you choose to work with. I'm out here if you resonate with me. But hear this. You need to work with someone to be able to break the trauma bond and to heal your codependency and to once and for all accept that this relationship that you most wanted, still most maybe do want, isn't going to work and isn't healthy. And that you do need to learn how to heal so you can move on. And I mean the best for everybody, but I'm going to keep it real to help people heal. I don't believe in sugarcoating. And who knows, maybe this channel would have 100,000 subscribers if I was busy telling people what they want to hear. But, here on my podcast and in working with clients, you don't pay for this. But I believe just got to give the content that has the most chance to help the most people. And when I'm working with people, I don't want to take people's money and not help them and not help them to help themselves, because what the heck? And there are a lot of people out there now, the bigger they get on YouTube, well, not bigger like me, right? You know what I mean? But the bigger they get on YouTube and the bigger their channels grow in numbers, and the more they're these influencing people and whatnot, and that's fine. Great. I don't care. Whatever. But the more that they do that, the more I think sometimes they get sidetracked from really what it is at brass tacks, keeping it real. And they start to say things that maybe they don't even believe in, but that they know that you guys out there want to hear. I'm not about that. Because how's that going to help people? Because, there are channels you can go to, right? You can hear about the borderline. You can hear what you want to hear without being so encumbered with what you need to hear, which is what's going on with you as a codependent. And that, everything I've already said in this video, so I won't go on any longer. And, I just hope this was helpful. And it will be for some people that are ready to hear it. And it will be most annoying for others, I guess. But anyway, keeping it real to help you heal. Take care.